And welcome back to the 2021 Wrestling Mindset Leadership Clinic, quite possibly the greatest compilation of coaches, business people, and wrestling minds that have ever existed in one coaches convention, brought to you by Wrestling Mindset. We want to make sure we remind everyone that we're dedicating the coaches clinic to my longtime coach, Don Ernst, as well as teammate at the University of Pennsylvania, Matt Eveleth, both who are battling for their life right now with cancer. Please remember them in your prayers, as well as everyone in the wrestling community struggling, spirit, mind, body, or emotions. We also want to remind you that everything here, we're donating to Beat the Streets. So if you'd like to donate to Beat the Streets, please make sure you do. We've already raised over $1,800. We want to make sure we get that up higher by the end of the day. That's been going great. I want to remind you, one of the main themes we have here is that leaders are readers. Any serious person with serious goals, there's no doubt about it, they're on a summer reading program. We want to make sure you get the reading material from all of our great presenters. Of course, our mindset book, Building the Predator Mindset, Chosen Suffering by Tom Ryan, you'll see later today, as well as all the other great books that we'll be sending over to you. And now, with no further ado, we're bringing to you the great Joe DeSena, the CEO of Spartan and best-selling author. Joe took us by surprise last year when he was doing a workout in his garage. I'm ready for him now. I got the shorts on, but he's driving. He's in Las Vegas. Joe, tell us what you're doing.
You know, everybody asks me, hey, Joe, what about work-life balance? And I believe in work-life integration. And I apologize, Gene, but I'm at Rocky Mountain Nationals. The kids just had a weigh-in. 95 degrees out here at 8 a.m. It was 115 yesterday. And I was just asked, because of my skills with event production and everything, I was just asked to go get burrito breakfast for everybody. So we're driving right now to get breakfast, and I want to talk grit and gratitude with you. I want to talk about resilience. I want to talk about the power of being able to bounce back from anything that gets thrown your way.
Excellent. We want to hear about it.
Let's do it. You tell me when. Tell me when you want to get into it.
Kick it in. What's the secret with grit? How do you build it? How do you foster it? How did you foster it in yourself and your children and your business?
You know, I thought about it this morning, knowing that we were going to get on, and I thought most people break when adversity hits them, and adversity is going to hit everybody. There's no way out of it because we all die. Nobody gets out of this thing alive. So maybe your close ones hopefully don't have cancer. Maybe you don't end up in a divorce. Maybe you win everything you attempt to do. And but most likely that's not going to be the case. And so most people break. They show signs of cracking at those moments in life. And if we can learn, and I think I've got a methodology, but if we can learn how to smile in the face of adversity, how to grind through it, actually enjoy that process because we know we're getting better. Oh my God, life becomes so much easier. For me in particular, Gene, I've got a saying. I've got a little mantra that I've come up with, you know, when things suck. And things suck often, right? Everything that can go wrong does go wrong. Like I said, my mantra is, well, it could be worse. And my mind immediately goes to a place whether it's already existed for me, where I've been in some crazy race somewhere, or I've lost a bunch of money in the markets, or whatever may have happened. It could be worse. That's where my mind goes. Or I create a place and say, well, I could be in Siberia right now, living with my family with no food and no money, right? And so if you could quickly change your frame of reference and look at life through those goggles, through that lens of being in a different place that's worse, then it's not so bad. You know, this past week, we had the annual kids death camp on the farm. And we did something interesting this year. We had 2 separate courses every day that the kids could take. They could be with the wrestlers or they could be with the civilians. And what happened was everybody did better because they thought the other one was worse. Whatever one they chose in their mind was easier. And that made it more bearable. And so again, that idea of it could be worse. The other thing, Gene, not to give you all the answers in one shot here, but the other thing is, you got to practice it. You got to practice adversity. You know, you and I have had the fortune of living in nice places. We're in America. We've got good families. So it's not like we're growing up in India in poverty, right? And yeah, you know, you wrestled and it was hard, but was it really that hard? Come on, you had to cut a little weight. A lot of people don't get to cut weight on their own. They have to cut weight because they have no. So it was, you know, for you and I, it wasn't that bad. So my message to the viewers would be, practice adversity the same way you practice piano, or you practice math, or you practice, like, develop that muscle so that you're cool when shit happens. You've practiced, like the Navy SEALs do it, the Coast Guard does it. They practice for really tough situations, for missions. And so we should practice. And, you know, I'm going to sound like I'm plugging my own business here, but that's why we do Spartan races. We do Tough Mudder events so people could practice under the barbed wire. Like, it's simple stuff, guys. You know, some people look at it, they see those videos, oh my God, that's crazy. Why would I ever do that? Why don't I just sit on my couch and watch Netflix? Because that's not helping. That's not helping you when the shit hits the fan. Netflix is that, like you mentioned, reading a book. I like reading is for leaders. I like that. But reading and podcasts, you're engaging in that stuff passively. What I would suggest is you need to engage in it in actuality, immerse yourself in it, and do the hard shit, right? Maybe wrestle up to weight class.
Right? We don't want to be thought-provoking speakers. We want to be action-provoking speakers.
Maybe run to the wrestling tournament, right? So you can deal with the tough times. So sorry, doing it. What I need to actually do right now, it's harder, and I can hear you better. Charlie, I know you have two. My son Charlie's holding the camera. He's got the other phone in his hand, so we know where to go. Now Jack is jumping in. He's going to grab the. By the way, Gene, we're teaching the kids right now. We did it last time, I think, when I was on the show. I want my kids to learn as I'm talking to you. You hear me or no?
Yep.
Oh. All right. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on all that, Gene?
I think if you want to get good at doing difficult things, you have to practice doing difficult things. Just like you said, you need to set up adversity situations. In our wrestling mindset program, the systematic program we created, one of the lessons for mental toughness is setting up extreme challenges for yourself, whether it's doing a Spartan race, whether it's doing 24 hours straight of working out, whether it's running a marathon. And we understand this might not contribute directly to achieving your goals in the sense of perfect transfer from A to B, like everything you do there is going to equate to the wrestling mat. But the point is, it all equates to your mindset. If you practice doing hard things, then when hard things get thrown at you, you'll be able to handle it exactly like you said. But it's hard to do that if you're just sitting back. And reading is only a beginning, right? It's not about being a thought-provoking speaker. It's about being an action-provoking speaker. That book, that podcast, that YouTube page doesn't promote you to take action. You're wasting your time, right? I'm working with someone right now, and that's the problem. They'll devour self-help information, and they just won't take action. And I say, listen, it's a waste of time. Do something else then. Take action.
I agree with you. Maybe the podcast, maybe the book, maybe the conversation with the coach, maybe that inspires you to actually take that first step to put your sneakers on. I had on one of our podcasts, a guy that said he's got a policy of just sneakers on. Let me just get my sneakers on and start moving. Sorry, I'm listening to directions at the same time, but a lot of people get stuck at that point, Gene. They've listened to the podcast, they've read the book, and now they can't take that action. They're just stuck. And by the way, I've met wrestlers and coaches, high level, I'm not going to mention names, that get stuck when they're not doing the thing they're used to. So the thing that wrestlers are used to is wrestling. The thing that chefs are used to is cooking. The thing that I'm used to is obstacle racing. Like, it's a little more uncomfortable for me to do other things like everybody else did outside of what they're used to. And so,
your destination will be on the right.
hang on, I'm almost at the breakfast place where I am in charge of getting breakfast for everybody at Rocky Mountain Nationals that's working there. So just bear with me. By the way, to build some grit and resilience, I should just come back with no breakfast, make them all suffer a little bit. But they get stuck. We all get stuck. I'm sure you do too, Gene. We get stuck when it's not the thing we're used to. And I remember those wrestlers when I brought the Olympic team up to the farm in Vermont, our farm. I remember them saying, like, why are we doing this? Why are we chopping wood? Why are we in ice cold water? Why do you have us climbing a mountain? And my answer was, like, you got to do stuff that you don't do every day. You got to do stuff that's completely outside your comfort zone in order to be better at the thing you do every day. Right?
Absolutely. And I see you've arrived here. So tell us who's going to be speaking next and why is he going to be speaking?
Yeah.
Well, we got Charlie. Charlie's turning it towards Jack. But Charlie, I got two boys, guys. And we got Charlie, the younger one. He's wrestling today. And Jack, the older one. And Charlie's been engaged. Again, it's going to sound like a plug for you. But, guys, it's really not. It wasn't planned. That's been working with your mindset coaches, Les. And I don't want to sugarcoat it. We might not get the answer we want, Gene, but let's find out from Charlie. Like, is it helping? Is it hurting? What do these guys think of talking to a coach? I know I myself resisted coaching for 15 years because for me, it felt like, oh, I don't need a psychologist, right? But then, this is going to sound funny, guys. I was watching the show Billions, and I happened to relate to that show very well because the guy that's portrayed in that show was my customer. It was actually one of my customers, and he had a high-performing organization, and they had a high-performing performance coach there. And that's when my mindset changed and said, wait a minute, I'm an idiot. Everybody should have a coach. So I have a coach. Charlie has a coach. Jack had a coach. You guys can talk about that as to why he didn't feel it was good. But you guys are live. It's going to be uncomfortable for you, which is good. So start talking to Gene. I'll be back. I'm going to order some food.
Great, Charlie DeSena. How's it going, buddy?
Hi.
So you work with Les Sigmund, right?
Yeah.
Right, and Les is one of our mindset coaches. A lot of our mindset coaches are really high-level wrestlers, all know what they're talking about. Tell us about your experience a little bit.
It's really nice, and he was like a really good wrestler. And he like sent me one of his videos where he just like did most of his good takedowns and stuff.
Excellent. And how is it opening up to him and talking to him? Is he pretty easy to talk to?
Yeah, he has like we do like the same thing kind of every day, where it's like he has this worksheet, and then we just go through each of the questions.
Excellent. What can you share with us a lesson that you've learned? Something that maybe helped you?
Yeah, you have to have you need to be able to do like the same thing every day, because then like if you change it up when something else is if you have the same breakfast every day and it's working really well, and then suddenly you have a terrible breakfast, then you don't wrestle well. You'll be confused and you won't have anything to go off of why you didn't wrestle well. Something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what year are you right now?
I'm 13.
Wow, how does that make you feel knowing you're going through these lessons as a 13-year-old when a lot of people never go through this, or it's the same information that the Olympic team's learning?
Pretty good.
Yeah, and tell us what other things has he taught you?
He told me you have to have you need to get good at you have to have your good move, or a move that you are really good at that you is your thing. And that helps a lot.
Right, so knowing what your best moves are, so you're focusing on what you're going to do as opposed to what your opponent's going to do.
Yeah.
And how do you think that's going to help you for this upcoming tournament?
Well, then I have a bunch of setups I can get to that move, stuff like that.
All right, I know what lesson you're referring to right here. Tell us more. What did he do? He said that you spoke about your best moves. What exactly did he have you do there?
He just told me moves like, or he asked me to tell him moves that I do a lot or I practice a lot, and then we like set them up and what kind of a setup I would do to get to that or something like that.
Right, to get you more, to keep you structured and organized. You know, Dave and Mark Schultz, they were brothers, you know, just like you and your brother, and they were both Olympic champions. And that's the lesson that they did. So I pretty much stole that lesson from them. So that's a high level lesson you're doing right there that a lot of people never do in their career.
Yeah.
So what is it? What are your best moves on neutral? Your best takedowns?
I just do the dump a lot, and I get to like a sweep single a lot. That's like my main two.
I'm back.
You feel like your confidence is growing?
Yeah.
Confidence growing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was Charlie okay, guys, or did he get an A or an F?
Oh, we got an A. It takes guts at 13 to speak in front of 113 people who are on right now.
Nice. I was thinking as I went in and ordered the burritos, guys, the breakfast burritos, I was thinking we didn't cover gratitude. And one of the things I try to teach the kids, I'm not sure they're grasping it yet, is this idea of I get to do this rather than I have to do this. Like you could be missing 2 legs. You could be in Siberia. Like when you start to become grateful for everything you have, grit becomes easier. I do it a lot. I do it a lot in my own mind, right? Like, oh my God, I am so grateful. By the way, the great Stoics, you go back to Seneca, right? He was the wealthiest guy on the planet at that point in time. He was an advisor to Nero, and he would go live out in the streets for a couple of days as a bum because he wanted to appreciate and be grateful for the stuff he had. And so I think we could all use a little grateful practice where we eliminate some of the things we have so that we appreciate them more. Those that have nothing appreciate everything. Those that have everything appreciate nothing.
Right. And that's why sometimes the richest people are some of the most ungrateful people or the most miserable people. You see this a lot of times with some of the most attractive people also, who are always used to being complimented about their looks. And oh, heaven forbid, one thing goes wrong, they don't look at their best and they're in shambles. That's mindset. That's not dealing with adversity. That's
right. That's right. And so that goes back to practice adversity. Practice it so that you get used to it. Look, I heard, why at Cornell University, why were there so many suicides? And I remember digging into it years ago. And one of the answers I got was, you got to understand, a lot of these kids were the best in their classes in high school. And then they got to Cornell and they were no longer the best and they struggled and they couldn't deal with that. They hadn't practiced it. Right. And I mean, look, it's one thing to fail. It's another thing when it's fatal. Right. So again, showing the importance of not just us on the phone listening to you and I right now, but all the people we're connected to, all the kids. A lot of the parents, when I take them to this annual death camp on the farm, Gene, a lot of the parents, they say, Joe's nuts. There's no point. Why are you doing this? We're doing it for the exact reasons we're talking about. We're doing it to set the kids up for success. Right. And this is a timeless principle, by the way. The virtue we're looking for here is fortitude. So if we all know the 4 virtues, the cardinal virtues, prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. You remember that by the words peanut butter and jelly, French toast. Prudence, justice, fortitude, temperance. And fortitude has 5 sub-virtues. And the one you're speaking right now is mortification. And mortification is willingness to put aside pleasure and engage in the arduous, being willing to do hard things. And a lot of people don't do that. So that's a critical thing. That's the virtue right there, mortification. Do the hard things. And I wanted to mention something else, but no, I want to help you beat the streets. I have a good friend, Mike Novogratz. I'm pretty sure he was behind one of the folks behind Beat the Streets. Yes. In the early days. One of the first races I ever put on went from my house to his house, funny enough. And so I want to help Beat the Streets. So why don't I donate $1,000? But there's a catch. There's a catch. I need some people to send in videos of them doing burpees to you. And then as long as you show me 1,000 burpees being done by one person or a group of people or whatever, I'll donate the 1,000. So folks that are listening, they know people, whatever, they got to do some burpees and I'll donate the money.
Nice. Now, if we do 2,000 burpees, do we get $2 grand?
You're going to kill me. You're going to kill me. I'm having a little bit of a tough time right now coming out of COVID. No excuses, no excuses. But let me just tell you what happened last week. So maybe you guys could feel a little pity for me. Last week, I had a race in Scotland all set up to go, which means we spend $500,000 building the obstacles, securing the location, delivering the trucks, getting all the labor and hotels. Everything's ready to go. And this little town in Scotland decided that they were going to shut the race down. So we went to court. You're going to love this. We went to court and they said, you can go to court, but we're going to do a closed door session. You guys can't be in the courtroom. So we fought with the lawyers and we got into the courtroom and ultimately we won. Friday morning, 7 to 5, we won. We could have the race. They took somebody who had a hair up there, you know what, took that finding, sent it to a higher court. And that night, the night before the race got canceled. Otherwise, we were all going to be arrested. So, fuck, that costs a lot of money. And that's happening all over the world. So if I wasn't dealing with that, I'll promise you this, by next year, we'll do this again. And yes, I'll cover up to 2,000 burpees. How's that?
Excellent. Excellent. It's great stuff, Joe. We really appreciate it. Thank you. And for your generosity. Well, we'll open the floor up for some questions. So any questions that we have from the audience? I know a lot of people are interested. They've heard everything you've said. We spoke last year and our great meeting of the minds. So open up the floor for questions. This is great that the kids get to be a part of this. This is good for them too.
We got Jack is getting bagels. We're sweating our you-know-whats off in this car, but that's good.
Right? Right?
We got they're making the breakfast burritos.
First question, tips, strategies on manufacturing adversity for teams. So what would you do to make adversity for teams? So how do you create adversity for the teams themselves? All right, it looks like we're frozen a little bit, so I'll take the question, and then we'll have Joe give his answer too. Also, remember, we'll go to a little bit of a break after this, and then we'll kick in after, so you'll be able to click the link below for the show notes for the next presentation. But basically, manufacturing adversity for the team. Get used to doing things. Compete in practice like the way you'll compete in matches. It's important sometimes to bring in fans. Like when you have practice matches, bring everyone in onto one mat and have people actually watch, almost like it's a wrestle off. If you wanted to bring in fans, have someone dress up as the referee, the kids wear the singlet, the kids wear headgear. It doesn't seem like it's adversity. Maybe the answer you're thinking about is maybe crank up the heat or, it's something like that. It's not so much that. It's get them to compete the way they're going to be competing in a match. So I'd rather create the psychological nervousness, make them psychologically uncomfortable rather than just physical. Because, of course, we could keep running the kids into the ground, run 10 more sprints. I mean, I would recommend doing some kind of team builder. One of the things Roger Reyna did with the wrestling team at Penn before I got there, he had the team run 12 miles. Now, you don't have to do exactly that. I remember Mike Malanconico over at Rhino, he had a 24-hour lockdown workout. So 24 hours, they were locked in the gym, and each hour they had to do a different exercise. They could kind of like sleep in between, but it was basically a 24-hour workout. Reyna chose the 12-mile route. So it really comes down to, yes, do some kind of extreme workout. It doesn't even have to be in the season. In fact, it's probably better if you do this outside of the season, because during the season, you want their bodies to be fresh and ready. Outside of the season, you could have them do some kind of crazy workout. Mike Malanconico's 24-hour lockdown was done outside of the season. So Now they have that. They had something they did that other people didn't do. The Jay Robinson camp, 28 days intensive camp. That was big. I went to the East Stroudsburg camp. I was in 8th grade and my brother Jeff was in 6th grade. He was the youngest person to complete the camp. They started off with 88 people. It got weeded down to 45. I have the shirt still up right here in my workout room. I have the shirt up, my East Stroudsburg shirt, because that was an intensive camp. And I knew that was something I did that other people didn't do. So yes, set up the extreme situations for your team, but also make sure mentally you're putting them under stress. So they're feeling those match conditions. It's not just about the physical workout, it's mentally putting them in adversity. So Joe, the question was, what are tips and strategies for manufacturing adversity for a team?
Yeah, before I answer, I just want you to know what happened. My phone actually shut down because of the heat. It literally said it's too hot. So that's how hot it is out here if you guys aren't out on the West Coast. But the tips and strategies are you gotta get. I just did it last week with my team. I got my whole team together that runs Spartan Race, the executive team, and I said we're going to the farm and we're gonna get outside our comfort zone. We're gonna hike the mountain together. We're gonna carry chains. And then I threw a monkey wrench in the program without telling them, and I set up tents outside, 16 tents, so that they didn't get to stay inside a building and shower inside the building. And what it did, people that suffer together, they build stronger bonds. So I know it sounds like silly suffering, right? Being in a tent. I mean, there's many people that don't even have a tent, but we stayed in the tent. We roughed it a little bit. We hiked the mountain together. We dragged the chain. Everybody was sweating and out of breath. And when you do that together, not only does it build everybody's resilience individually, but oh my God, the bonds that it builds between the folks, the communication levels that increase with doing tough stuff changes the game. So sorry to say, guys, it's typically doing something physical and very uncomfortable.
All right, excellent. Another person says, gratitude is everything. That's very misunderstood. You're absolutely right. Darren Allen has a question. How do you encourage athletes to overcome hesitation?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one thing to encourage them. It's another thing to show them. Fear really should be fuel. It shouldn't be something that causes you to hesitate. And when you can teach a kid or a person that fear is really, if you go back 500 years on this planet, we probably had some legitimate fears, Gene. Like, oh my God, that lion might get us, right? That polar bear, we might run out of food. Those were legitimate fears. But our hardware and software in our brains, in our bodies, has not changed in those 500 years with the times. So these fears that we have, like I might lose if I get out there on the soccer field. We might lose a team. I might lose on the mat and this wrestling. Who cares? It's not fatal. Fatal is bad, right? If you die, if you get eaten by the lion, that's bad. Losing is the opportunity to learn. And if you could somehow have that conversation over and over and over and teach that young person, teach that person that it's a misplaced fear that's causing the hesitation. Now, if it's not fear of losing, if instead it's the unwillingness to be uncomfortable, then you need to teach the individual, hey, that's normal. That's the number one motivator for a human being. We don't like to be uncomfortable. That's what kept us alive on the planet as long as it has. It kept us from freezing to death and falling off cliffs. But once you know that the reason you're grabbing coffee instead of doing your workout in the morning or reading the newspaper or opening your phone, the reason you're doing that is to avoid the uncomfortableness of working out. Once you know that, then you say, oh, come on, stop playing with me, mind, right? I just got to get to work here and get it over with.
Right. Excellent. We have a question now from the owner of Scorpions Wrestling School, Omar Feliciano from New Jersey. He asks, what's some advice for a wrestler that's in a funk?
Jack back here, not to put him on the spot, my son here was in a funk. We worked really hard during COVID. My guys did not have the luxury of doing, Pennsylvania level training since they're 4 years old. So we're trying to catch up. And so during COVID, we used an opportunity to go nuts. 2-a-days, 3-a-days, every day, every tournament, everywhere, and try to catch up, And Jack's performance was not great at some of the national tournaments. And so what I saw was he started to get into a funk. And I think what happens is you're not making the connection in your mind between all the work and seeing some sort of outcome. Like, wait a minute, I did 300 practices like you told me, coach, and I didn't win. I didn't perform that well. And so I think the conversation, at least for us, was, hey, we have to enjoy the process, because process is 98% of it, right? If it's about the outcome, we're always going to be disappointed. So I don't know how you do it, son, or whoever it is we're talking to at the Scorpion Club, like, but we better be grateful for these practices and this hard, we get to do this. You know, I'm good friends with Yanni and Yanni's dad, Aaliyah, and Aaliyah turned it on its head. What he said was, if you have an issue, I'm taking practice away. You don't get to do this. This is only for those that enjoy it and want it, as opposed to you have to do the practice. So
Right.
those might be some ways to help the funk.
That's an important thing, because and then they really understand. No, you get to do this. That the plug could be pulled to me at any time. That's important. A lesson I would hope everyone would learn after COVID, but some of us still need to learn. Okay, we have a question from the great Dr. Rob Gilbert. He says, please tell a story of a memorable last place finisher. Did anything happen where maybe someone got hurt and they had to crawl through the finish line, or maybe someone helped someone along? Anything like that?
I'll give you a great one. I mean, we have so many, tens of thousands, but and by the way, everybody listening, Gene, they should just hit you up. I'm happy to give a bunch of free entries for the Wrestling Mindset group. They should get out there and do a race with their teams. Again, I'm being selfless, not selfish when I say it, because I won't charge you guys, but I promise you'll have a higher performing wrestling team if you guys do this together.
Send me mindset@wrestlingmindset.com. Email mindset@wrestlingmindset.com with the title Spartan Race, and we will get you that. Joe, thank you again.
We'll get you that. But the most memorable moment for me is a gentleman. God, the name is escaping me. I feel terrible. Who's missing both legs. When he was 8 or 9 years old, he got run over by a truck in front of his mom, a tractor trailer, and he views it as he's lucky to be alive, but he has 2 stubs, literally from the thigh down is missing. And this, I hate to curse. I want to accentuate how powerful he is, but this MF, okay, he goes out and does one of our toughest races. And I said, I was messing with him. I said, you're never going to be able to finish the thing. He goes across the finish line after 12 hours on the course. Most people finish in 5 or 6. It's freezing cold at night. I'm standing out in the cold waiting for him for a half hour. And for a moment, my mind said, gee, Joe, why don't you go inside? It's cold. I had to slap myself and say, are you fucking kidding me? You want to go inside when this guy, Casey McAllister, that's his name, is out there on the course just using his hands to walk 13 plus miles and do 30 plus obstacles in the cold, comes across the finish line, high fives me and says, Joe, is that all you got? You got to give me something harder than that. So that's a memorable moment at a finish line.
Awesome, man. That's great. I have another question. What are some things you should have your kids do, young kids, 4, 5, 7, on a regular basis to build toughness? Is it getting them up early? Is it having them run up the mountain? Oh, what do you recommend?
Yeah, so I'm obviously a believer in getting up early, but the other side of that is they got to go to bed early. So the harder part is getting them to go to bed early. So it's just got to be, this is what we do in this house. You're in bed by 7, 7:30, right? You're lucky if you're sleeping then by 8, 8:30. And so you can get up at 5 in the morning. There should be 1 day a week of ice cold showers. Hey guys, we're turning the heat off in the house. Everybody's jumping in a cold shower. I like to do it every day personally, but it'd be hard to not get divorced if you did it every day in the house. So I would recommend the cold showers. You guys already do it in wrestling. Fasting is good, very hard. And then you got to work out, you got to sweat. And when you see the kids are completely exhausted, we got to go further. We got to go a little further. These 2 guys in the car, Charlie ran New York Marathon at 7 years old. Jack ran the Boston Marathon at 8 years old. We did not break any records. We were bandits on the course because they don't let 7 and 8-year-olds do marathons. But I knew some people, and we were able to do them unofficially. And oh my God, you want to build some grit and resilience? Let me know what mile 17 looks like with your 8-year-old when you're out there.
Wow, that's great. Oh, awesome stuff, Joe. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. We covered a lot of great things there. Anything else? Anything coming up in the near future that we want to send people to? Resources that we want to get out?
Yeah, you could always shoot me an email. You know that, joe@spartan.com. Keep it to 1 or 2 sentences, please, because I get a lot of emails. We got a parenting book going out. What the hell do I know about parenting? But I teamed up with a doctor. And the gist of the book is everything we just talked about. Like, make it harder. When you have a choice between harder and softer, always go harder on kids. I got that advice at a young age. We got races finally coming back all over the world. So we'd love to see you out there. It's on us if you're tied to wrestling mindset. And I got to go pick up my breakfast burritos, feed the guys at Rocky Mountain Nationals, and see my boys wrestle.
Absolutely. Thank you a lot. Thank you very much, Joe. We really appreciate it. We're
You guys
excited.
are awesome.